Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Round Table.
You're listening to Roundtable. I'm Niu Honglin, joined by Steve and Yushan. Coming up soon, there's a pattern hiding in this week's stories. You can't see it just yet because we haven't laid all the pieces on the table. But once we do, something unexpected starts to emerge. Yes, it's time for our Full Circle segment again.
3 stories, 1 connection. This is the Full Circle.
Welcome to the Full Circle. 3 stories, different topics, different worlds. On the surface, nothing obvious connects them. But look closer, we can see a thread. To start with, what are the 3 stories that we picked this week?
Yeah, I've got it this week, and the first one that I chose was from Thursday about the red envelope dilemma.
So 红包 also can be called red envelope or lucky money. They're given out to younger generations by older generations during, for example, holiday season like the Spring Festival period.
Yeah, so we talked about how the pressure is different now, where in the past it wasn't so much about the amount, it was about the gesture of giving the envelope. But now, you know, with incomes rising and more money in the envelopes, expectations are rising, so there's some anxiety and pressure involved there.
Yeah, and especially in these days, different families would have different numbers of kids, and you want to know if you want to give each kid the same amount as those as you received, or the total amount. And there are a lot of factors to think about now.
Everybody's wondering that same question, like how much, right? So that was the story from Thursday. That's story number 1. The next one that I chose was from Wednesday. This is about the university labor class boom. There's a course that teaches basic cooking skills. Nothing too fancy. You can learn how to make fried rice or some chicken or some lamb, things like that, some different dishes. And they only have room for about 36 students, but the applicants exceeded 300. So we just talked about how the night classes are booming, right?
Yeah.
Well, these similar style classes are booming in universities too.
Sure. I would want to learn how to fix my car. I have never touched the engine of my car. And if you can do that in a university classroom, why not?
I mean, cooking is certainly something that's totally underrated by modern day education. I'm telling you. It's a whole system that the earlier you learn, the better. So
And mechanics too.
Right.
You need it, but you never got it taught in school.
Yeah.
So weird.
I'm going to come back to that point a little bit later. That's my second one. Okay, so story number 3, this is also from Thursday, and this is about AI-powered one-person companies. AI has rewritten entrepreneurship rules. Once dependent on complex teams and substantial capital and resource accumulation, entrepreneurship now has a new paradigm. AI-powered one-person companies. They're called OPCs. Yeah, so the idea before, you know, especially about entrepreneurship, was that you needed a lot of money up front, you needed a large team to get started, but this is just totally the opposite situation now. AI is making one-person companies not just possible, it's making it popular.
I don't like this idea. I don't think I'm that good at artificial intelligence, and I will work too hard.
Those are 2 of the points that we talked about. Number 1, you got to know how to use these AI tools. And number 2, one of the downsides of it is, of course, it's a trade-off that you really have to sacrifice a lot of your own time and be fully committed to it.
Yeah, so red envelope dilemma somehow, and learning the kind of classes or the kind of courses that would allow you, would almost force you to have hands-on experiences in university classrooms, and AI-powered one-person company. What would be the full circle this time?
All right, let me draw the thread for you. All 3 stories expose a widening gap between what a tradition promised and what the modern version demands. And in each of these cases, someone is building a bridge to close the distance. We're talking about gaps and bridges. We'll start with the red envelope story. The Hongbao promised luck and blessing, and it was a simple exchange of love between different generations. But the gap between that promise and today's reality has grown wide. Now adults, some people, they'll budget for the holiday for months just because of the red envelopes. And anxiety spikes before the holiday. And again, it's that question, how much did you get? Oh, well, how much did you get? That has become the unspoken question that no one asks, but everyone is calculating all the time. So what was meant to carry sentiment now carries social debt. So to narrow that gap, communities are publishing suggested amount charts, and local governments are issuing caps. And it's not done to kill the tradition, but to bridge it, to bring it back to its original meaning. The bridge, it's still under construction in the red envelope case, but the direction is clear: less calculation and more connection. Now, on to the labor classes. A university degree promised prestige and theory and a ticket to a better future, right? That's what we all thought when we entered into our own schools. But the gap between the promise and the reality became impossible to ignore. You have these really, really intelligent graduates who can solve complex equations, but they can't boil an egg. So the expectation there was that life skills would come from life itself. Niu Honglin, you said you've never touched the inside of a car's engine, but you thought it would come to in your life somehow. But the reality is that it doesn't. Helping in the kitchen, maybe helping a parent fix a leaky faucet. Those moments, those learning opportunities at home now between parents and kids, they are quite scarce. So to narrow that gap, students said, hey, university, why don't you start teaching me something different? And universities responded, turning classrooms into bakeries and auto shops. So the bridge is being built course by course, and students are lining up to cross it.
Now I get it. For the one-person company thing, in previous days, it's almost impossible. I mean, it's a great idea if you think about it. You got freedom, you can control the company, but you have to control the company and control yourself. And you have to, well, still have all the possible capabilities, different types of abilities to be able to really form a company, which means a one-person company can hardly be the reality. But AI closed that gap.
Totally. Now the promise is completely different. One person, one laptop, one company is totally possible. So to narrow the gap between what the remaining gap is between independence and loneliness there, because running your own company as a one-person company, there's loneliness as well. But now founder communities are forming mentorship networks. Those are growing. Policies are catching up as well. So the bridge here for the one-person companies, it's not about lowering expectations. It's about proving that the old trade-off wasn't necessarily the only path, meaning if you're going to work on your own, you're going to have to take that loneliness, whether you like it or not. Now we know that going solo doesn't mean you have to go it alone. So there you go. Those are the three stories, three gaps and three bridges, all being fixed one course or one step at a time.
It's not only about these three stories, isn't it? It's about almost everything. Being able to see a problem, being able to identify the gap, and being able to create that bridge that solves the problem or make sure that the gap is somehow narrowed. Like previously, we've aired our new podcast series, Sage and Youth, Understanding or Debating Zhuangzi's Tao, and it got quite popular among audience. They said they like the idea, they like the show. And I think partly the reason here is that we know that traditional Chinese philosophy is something with a lot of wisdom. It's something that is worth learning, and it might have a huge benefit. It might inspire you to solve the problems in your own life. Yet the gap there was that it was written in traditional Chinese language. It was taught in a way that is not that easily understood or interpreted by everybody. So in order to narrow that gap, we invited young media professionals to talk about the idea, to debate over whether or not they like it, whether or not these philosophies still apply for today's world. And by doing that, we're able to introduce that philosophy into today's audience.
I think, too, it's about, we always assume that if we want to gain something, we have to give something up. If you want to learn about Zhuangzi, you have to give up fun. But that's not true.
That's not true.
But that's not true. If you want to run your own company, you have to give up working with other people. You have to give up your own time. You have to give up your own energy. So I was thinking about like sacrifices. Have you ever sacrificed something in your life to gain something else? Like you gave up one thing so that you could gain another thing?
We were just talking about solo entrepreneurship. And back in the days when I was in university, which is like over 10 years ago, that was not yet a thing, like Honglin mentioned. And that was something that really triggered me back in the memory lane, because me and my ex-boyfriend, the boyfriend at that time, we were actually enrolled in the school's program of youth entrepreneurship, meaning that I will be his first and only employee on that program we were working on. Imagine this, having a company or some sort of a hub or a center for yourself at the age of 20. That was our dream, or more precisely his dream, where I'm just a participant of that program. And in the meantime, I got an invitation to go study in the University of Copenhagen for about half a year, because I was, achieving at a certain grade that I was chosen to be part of that exchanging program. But that kind of overlaps with a lot of our plan in building that entrepreneurship plan that we had back then. So we were I remember very vividly from over a decade ago of that big conversation I had with my ex, like, I think this really means a lot to me, and I'd like to go. It's only 6 months, if not shorter than that. But he was like, but don't you consider it selfish that you take on this your own chance? Do you have no plan?
I'm so happy he's called the ex.
I know,
Yes.
right? I know, right? So that was the thing. I thought I was giving up my periodical chase of academic advancements, aka my dream, in sacrificing all that in exchange for the possible achievement of our dream. But was it worth it? Actually, no, because it didn't work out. It didn't work out for that program. It didn't work out for our relationship. But do I regret it? The answer remains to be no, because it was, in a way, to teach me that there's no mistake for chasing personal dreams. And for all the girls out there, I know there are a lot of girls and female researchers that's listening to Roundtable these days, and we shouldn't feel guilty or shy away from opportunities that's given to you, that you earned. So it's okay to be in an intimate relationship, whatever kind that may be, and in the meantime, stay shining and remain a highly accomplished individual, regardless of which phase of life you are in right now. So yeah, that's something that I really kind of feel personally touched. This is not a story that I share on a daily basis, I assure you. So yeah,
well, thanks for sharing.
Really, it's about what you sacrifice, what you get in exchange. And in my case, that's a lifelong lesson.
Well, for me, it's quite much more shallow in the case, because I have had experience learning interpretation in Brussels. And when I was there, I spent a lot of my out of school time practicing and learning, because I feel like it's a very intensive training period, and learning would be much more quote unquote useful and meaningful than going around in Europe, in Brussels.
Yeah.
And at the you know the mentality of a student, but at the end of that 5 months, when I finally got a chance to walk around a little bit in different cities in Belgium, I totally felt like I was even learning about local people, local culture, learning about local architecture, how they understand the world with their perspectives. And I was a little bit regretting not making good use of my time at that time. But I think it's also about perspectives.
My story is so similar because after high school, I think I've mentioned this on the show before. After high school, my best friend, we actually ended up moving to Korea together years later. But just after high school, he said, "Hey, Steve, let's go backpack in Europe for 6 months." And I said, "Are you crazy?" And he said, "Why not? Let's just take a backpack full of clothes and stuff and just go." I said, "How are you going to get around?" He said, "I think they have trains and stuff. You just go from country to country." I said, "With what money?" He said, "Well, just, put some money together." I said, "No, I can't do that. I got to go to university." He said, "Just delay it." I said, "Delay university? Nobody delays university." So he went to Europe for 6 months, backpacked country to country to country, didn't have much money, didn't care. Saw Pavarotti for free.
Whoa.
He was in the back row. He snuck in. I think he snuck into the theater because he knew Pavarotti was there, and it's sold out, obviously, and very expensive.
Not suggested or encouraged on Roundtable, by the way.
If you're backpacking in Europe, go ahead. Snuck in and saw Pavarotti from the very back row.
Still.
And yeah, no kidding. And what did I do? Well, I guess I'll fill out my application now. You know what I mean? I don't regret a lot of things in life, but I certainly regret that.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Would you still make the same choice?
No.
No, not for today's you.
Oh.
For 20-year-old you.
Today's me would tell 20-year-old me, go sneak into the Pavarotti show and worry about your application later. But that's just me. You're right. We can't give that out as advice to everyone. But I do regret not doing that.
Yeah, so next time when you make a big decision, maybe you can jump out of your shoe today and try to think of it 10 years, 20 years ahead and think whether or not you make the choice. You will regret the choice that you make.
Yeah, I mean, we're all on a path of some sort, right? So what do we really need to regret? That's another question, perhaps, for another day.
All right, then for today's Full Circle, any final thoughts?
I do. Now, when I was going with the Full Circle stories, I was looking for bridges and gaps. But when I was sitting looking at the stories and thinking about, what do I feel about these? My brain actually went in a different direction. Why do we always assume that more is better? More money, more employees, more credentials. It's not even a thing that we think about anymore. It's not even a question that we think to ask. It's just what we do. It's the air that we breathe, and it's not even cultural. It's a global thing. It's true in China. It's true in Canada. It's true everywhere. We were raised on it. More friends means more popular, which means better. More money means more success, which means better. More knowledge means higher status, which means, better. You see there, status is the thread running through all of those things. It's the invisible scoreboard that we're constantly trying to chase. But if that's true, if status is really what we're chasing, then here's a problem. We're never actually going to get there. Because status isn't a destination, it's a comparison. And comparisons don't end. There's always someone with a thicker envelope, a fancier degree, or a shinier one-person company. So if we're always chasing, always climbing, always measuring, when do we actually stop? When do we actually enjoy what's in front of us? The answer, I think, is never. But this is where it gets tricky because ambition is a virtue. Wanting a better life for yourself or for your kids better than the one that you had, that's not greed, that's love. That's human nature. So how can we say it's wrong to want more, to achieve more, and to reach for something higher? I don't know. I really don't. But if I ever figure it out, I'll write a book. And you can buy it. So I can have more money, more friends, and a better status.
That is a lovely, lovely final thought. And I guess that's it. There's always that gap. There's always that wondering of whether or not we can do a better job. And there's always the thinking of whether or not we would regret our previous decisions. But after today's Full Circle, I'm actually curious to know, do you think if maybe for example, for the red envelope case, it was the community standing out as a third party providing somehow a kind of solution or a bridge. For the AI one person company, it's somehow technology development that solved that used to be unsolvable problem. And for us, for Yushan and Steve and I, we thought about the previous situation and we realized that it may be a change of perspective would make our previous decision not that regrettable, or maybe at that time, a change of perspective would push us to make a different decision. So do you think somehow some problems they're not meant to be solved by trade-offs or by sacrifices. They should be solved by creative thinking, by a surprising factor, or by someone's help, by like 20-year older Steve telling 20-year younger Steve to think about it another way.
I have put a lot of thought into this type of thing as I've gotten older, because you think, we ask that question, right? Like, what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah.
But I sometimes think, even if I told my younger self what I know now, I don't think my younger self would listen to me.
Precisely.
Right? Because it's a matter of perspective. And people need to go through things on their own and experience things on their own for them to fully grasp the concept. I could tell a young person right now, enjoy your high school time because it's actually pretty good. But not to a high school student. It's very difficult because the perspective is different. They're super focused on the Gaokao or whatever test you need to take, and it's really stressful. And then you've got, the society that exists within high school, and that can be tough for young students. I could say, when you're young, don't worry too much about how your career path is going to go. Just keep working hard and you'll figure it out someday. But I only can say that because I have the ability of hindsight. But without hindsight, it's impossible to grasp that advice, because foresight is not something readily available to people. Just like 75-year-olds know more than we do.
by nature.
But we probably won't listen to them a lot of the time when they try to tell us stuff.
Yeah, and time is always changing. And for young people, I think at every turning point or every decision you are making or about to make, as long as you stay true to yourself instead of other people's opinion or expectations on you, there's a lesser chance of regretting.
That's true. And we can always say to the younger version of ourselves that, your problem is just a minor issue. It will not bother you in the future. You might not even remember it when you're older. Yeah. But to each and every self of us, each and every version, that feeling was so real.
Your first heartbreak.
Yeah.
Right? Old you, not old you, I mean old anyone looks back and says, that was nothing. But at that moment, at that time,
that was everything.
It feels like the world is coming to an end.
But a good thing is, when we're talking about the kind of problems in the society, the kind of problems for a career, there are often different ways to solve it. So try to be creative in those situations. And that brings us to the end of today's Roundtable. I'm Niu Honglin with Steve and Yushan. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.